Derivatives trading involves substantial risk of loss and is not suitable for all investors. Past performance is not necessarily indicative of future results.
So stressful when the world's on fire. Good God. I can't look at this, guys. Like, my strategy is you buy it and you hope that you got a good spot. Yeah, but we all think you're crazy. You don't fight this. No way. The markets are freaking out and you don't think that anything is wrong? Come back tomorrow and I'll lose it all. Should be fun.
Hey, oh my gosh, what's going on here? Where am I? I am having so much trouble today here. Hold on a second. All right, there we go. I'm here. All right, well, guys, we have a market today, and I'm a little bit miffed here because I see opportunity, and I am not really sure what to do with this. Okay, so let's try and set up the situation here. Let's go to the chart. Overnight, well, not overnight, but late in the evening, headline hit that the U.S. Trade Court has ruled that President Trump does not have the authority to issue an emergency tariff. Essentially, they're saying you have to use emergency powers to use that authority, and this is not an emergency. So they canceling his tariffs. An interesting point on here, I will point out, I don't want to get too deep into it until maybe later, is that they have to like give back all of the money that they collected. Anyways, so the treasuries, they took, the S&P 500, woo, they took off. That plus Nvidia earnings and everything, Nvidia just totally crushed earnings again. S&P 500 took a big jump. Treasuries took a big hit. Oil boosted a little bit. Gold and silver actually kind of going up because of that, interestingly enough. Copper not helped as much, but there was some flows. But the one that's really, really getting hit, the dollar, down about 50 cents. And you can see all of the other currencies going up in the dollar. Now, oh, sorry. When I say down 50 cents, like they jumped big time, but they have now given it up. Okay. Bitcoin flat. Now, here's the problem. There are at least two other sections that potentially give the executive branch power to enact tariffs. So the Trump administration will, what is the word? Appeal. They will appeal this decision by the court. And then in the meantime, they're going to start working on implementing the tariffs a different way. So I don't think that this actually gets rid of the tariffs. And then there's the whole thing about, the uncertainty of an appeal. If you ask me, my opinion is he doesn't have the authority. If you guys remember back when he was running for president and talking about the tariffs, I said many times, here's the thing. I don't think that he actually can implement tariffs. Like I don't know what the rules are. People weren't talking about the rules back then, which really, really drove me crazy. But now we know. There's certain places where he can do it. And the one that he used it for, he basically declared a national emergency. And I kind of feel, well, no, you can't just declare a national emergency whenever you want, right? What's to stop a Democrat from coming in and saying climate change is a national emergency and then just being able to regulate anything that he wants, right? It shouldn't work that way. So I think that there's a good chance that the Supreme Court will side with the trade court on this particular issue. Well, actually, I don't know how likely that is. Like, what's the law? Like, what's the law behind, like, when you can declare a national emergency and things like that? I don't know. My personal opinion is it shouldn't be allowed, but I don't know how that's going to turn out. But it doesn't matter because there are other ways for Trump to implement the tariffs, and that's what you're going to see. It's going to be very similar to what happened with Joe Biden, right? And college forgiveness is they come in and they say, okay, we forgive all of your college loans. And then the Supreme Court comes in and is like, no, you can't do that. You're misusing that law. And so they're like, okay, then we're going to do it this way. And then, you know, that has to go through the courts. And then if they had struck that one down, probably there was like 2 other ways that they would do it, right? And all this time, we're just printing money. So I think that that's what's going to happen with tariffs. Now, again, I mentioned one really interesting point in here that I think matters to us in the treasury market is that the court has ordered them to basically like they give the tariff revenue that they collected back, which is like, how is that going to work? That just seems crazy to me. Like, if you're a company and you imported something and all of the prices changed because of the tariffs anyways, and then you paid the tariff and you're going to get the tariff back, that's not going to, I mean, that's going to be, you're going to lose so much money off of that, especially when you consider that some of the Republican bill is kind of assuming that you're going to get some of your revenue from tariffs. I would hope that if they, if the Supreme Court like sides with that in that the tariffs aren't legal or whatever, that they cancel that part. They say, no, but you can still keep the revenue that you collected. Okay. So we have this situation where the S&P 500 rallied really, really hard off of the headline, but I don't think that the headline is actually that good. Like, there's still going to be tariffs. It's still going to be like a legal battle. And we kind of always knew that it was going to be a legal battle. We just maybe kind of forgot, right? So, yeah, so coming back to the chart, the S&P 500 did give up a large part of that jump. But it's more complex than that because, well, the markets were kind of looking optimistic anyways, kind of expecting that Donald Trump will make deals anyways. And then we got the data this morning. So what did we get? Well, we got the US GDP quarter over quarter, second estimate, negative spot 2 versus an expected negative spot 3. So it is negative quarter GDP growth. Not too bad, but it's still down. That's not good. U.S. initial jobless claims 240K versus an expected 230K. Not good. You know, when you're getting to about 10K is about the amount that the market cares. So 10K miss. Not good. I think that might be why the treasuries jumped up here off of the news, right? We can see right there at 6:30. Also, U.S. continued jobless claims 1.919 million versus an expected 1.893. So you're almost getting now to 2 million on like long-term unemployment. That's not good. Like, the headline unemployment rate is still relatively low, but the fact that these people that are looking for work are basically looking for work for 6 months to a year, and it appears to be getting worse, is really, really bad for the economy. So this is still a thing where I really do not think that the U.S. economy can handle these interest rates for very long. Okay. We are also getting Let's see here. Fed's Barkin made some comments. We're getting Trade Advisor Navarro talking. He's saying courts are getting in the way of the Trump agenda. Okay. Maybe if we really want tariffs, we could do it through Congress. Maybe. Well, so the Treasury's jumped back up pretty hard off of that. Basically, after the 6:30 news, we're actually higher than we were before that headline hit overnight. So I would say we're pretty close to where we were. Granted, yesterday was not the best day. They sold it yesterday. Now, we also have a 5-year, a 7-year. We also have a 7-year auction today. I wonder, by the way, so the issue with Treasury demand, that there was an auction, it was a 20-year auction. The 20-year auction is kind of weird, though. So, what we really need is we need a longer term bond auction in the US. That isn't the 20-year. When is the 30-year auction? You know what? Forex Factory is not listing the auctions anymore. What's with that? Let's go to Treasury Direct. Auctions. Upcoming auctions. Okay, notes 7-year. No bonds. So they have not announced a bond auction yet. So the 7-year, I guess we'll see how it goes. What are you saying, AO, yesterday was not if you were just targeting 2 ticks on the ZN? I think you might have misunderstood what I was saying, but all I was saying was that we dropped a decent amount yesterday. It was a medium-sized down move yesterday, although pretty tight during our session. But you could get 2 ticks. Yeah, probably. Did move around quite a bit. So we're in a situation where I think that an informed trader could absolutely have an advantage here. But there's so much going on and the complexity of this is so high. I am not confident in my ability to call this today. There's too many factors. I suppose, though, that the flows at the moment are long. Oh, yes, and we have our algorithm that was broken. We need to fix that. Okay, Chris Moore says, I read yesterday that AI could cause the unemployment rate to rise above 10% within 5 years. Scary times. Okay, so there's this guy, I think it was the CEO of Anthropic, they were saying that with the technology that we have right now, we could automate all white-collar jobs within 5 years. I think that that's where you're getting that headline from. He's completely full of shit. He's absolutely, he is lying through his teeth, frankly. I really think that part of what's going on here with AI is that these AI companies, they are spending massive amounts of money. You got to realize it takes an insane amount of compute power to generate these general models. And the people paying for their services, like, the advanced chat GPT or whatever Anthropic has, and Claude, all of these things, it just does not make up for it. These companies are losing money. Okay. And so they have to keep things leveraged up to the hilt in order for them to make money in the long run. Basically, if investors don't believe that AI is going to completely redefine and transform society, if investors don't think that AI is going to completely transform society, then these companies are go bust. So I think that the CEOs are, whenever they talk, they say things to generate headlines and push more investment to them. But the idea that we're going to replace all white collar workers with AI is absolutely ridiculous. AI cannot replace any of these people right now. It helps some, it makes them more productive, but ultimately you need a person there because the AIs just hallucinate too much. I tell you what, I use AI when I'm doing my coding, and sometimes I'm like, wow, this is super useful. Like I did something yesterday where I created a new Terraform project for a really simple thing, and I just said, okay, I need this part. Okay, work that out. Need this part. I didn't have to change too much. It was really, really great. But then there are, once I get into any kind of problems or whatever, it's so bad. Especially if it's a technology that's like not widely talked about online, or it's new, or things changed. It sucks. It just sucks so bad at some of these things. And so it comes into this spot where, yes, it makes some things more efficient, but it doesn't replace me. I still need more people. I honestly, right now, I have enough work. Well, we got one guy that I'm working with that's a contractor. We'll see how he does on the thing that he's doing right now. I didn't hear anything from him yesterday, so I'm kind of anxious because I want this. I'm more interested in the thing that he's doing than the thing that I'm doing right now. So I hope that he has breakthroughs and we get going on that, because I want to get into Grafana and do some stuff. But I could probably add 2 more people, right? And not an AI. So yeah, now what's really going on though, I think, is that interest rates are high. Interest rates have been low for like such a long time that most of the businesses that have gotten really big, like Google and Microsoft and so forth, right? They've lived their whole life on low interest rates. They don't know how to deal with high interest rates. Their business does not do well in a high interest rate environment. And so their response to it has been lay lots of people off. I worry about Microsoft in particular. Like, how are we going to get a really good Windows 12 or Windows 13 or whatever is coming up next? I think that Microsoft is falling behind. I don't think that Linux really covers it. We need to have a good operating system, and they're laying people off. Not that they really seem like they care about it too much anyways. We're getting a good trend here so far in the Treasury, by the way. So yeah, that they're laying a ton of people off, and what has happened is so many people that normally would have gone to smaller local companies and things like that, they all moved to the city so that they could work for Google and Microsoft and Amazon and Apple and Netflix. Probably put Netflix in that category. And all of these other companies have not grown as much, have not been able to develop their tech up as much. And so now that the people are available, those companies are having a hard time picking up the slack, and it'll probably take a long time for them to get to the place where they can do that. Which means that all of these people that were previously being employed by big tech are out there flooding the market and creating this really, really high continuing jobless claims. You're not going to see it on like the headline unemployment numbers because it's a small subsection of the economy, but it's a really important subsection of the economy because it's like the one section of the economy that's like done well in the past 15 years, right? We killed all of the manufacturing and everybody that was doing anything other than tech and finance. And now what's happening? We're just like totally savaging tech. Well, finance might come out of this pretty okay. If like right now the yield curve has gotten a bit steeper, that helps companies, and I think I still want to stay long my banks. Okay, yes, our Korean friend is here. It's good to see you again. Dude, yesterday I was watching the Africa StarCraft League finals. Such a good finals. I tell you what, man, if you've ever like been interested in Brood War or like professional Brood War, but you just never sat down and watched a season of ASL, watch this season of ASL. It was such a good season. So many of the matches went all the way through to 7 games. There was a lot of really crazy stuff. It was so good. And next season, and you want to be in the know, understand who's who and those sorts of things, because next season, which is supposed to come up soon, by the way, next season we're supposed to get Flash come back. Hopefully, he's having issues with his wrist. They move their mouse too much to get RSI. But if he comes back, and then Sulky, he's won 4 times in a row. Flash versus Sulky would be like the highest profile Brood War match or final ever. It happens next time. So good stuff. And I also hear in Korea that the conservatives were like doing really, really poor because of all of the crazy stuff that happened with the president, but that they've actually been surging going into this election, which is really weird. But I think, there's this broader thing I see across the world. So, Democrats, in the United States, they are spending like $30 million or something like that to try and figure out how to speak to men better, because they are doing really poorly with men. And the way that the demographics are starting to go in the Democrat Party is all of the advantages that they supposedly have with minorities are essentially evaporating away because men of all races are turning against the Democrat Party. And so they're just like, well, it's our messaging. We got to figure out what kind of language these guys use and speak to them and all of this sort of stuff. She kind of reminds me of this whole thing with Kamala Harris, where they were trying to say that her running mate was like a man's man, which I don't think that anybody bought. But even if he was a man's man, even if he was like a really burly guy with a big beard and everything, I don't think it would help him. So the problem with the Democrat Party is not the messaging, it's the policy. Men have figured out that Democrat policy is bad for them, and until the Democrat Party fixes that and changes course, they will lose men. You can't just speak to it and hope that they vote for you anymore. Yes, my algo should have gone off. Let's fix this. As much as I despise Elon, he did make a great point on his departure from the White House that he thinks the beautiful bill, if the whole plan is to save money, what's the point? Yeah, you can have a big bill and a beautiful bill, but I don't think that you can have a big beautiful bill. I'm personally looking forward to the Democrats' plan to mom-splain more gender and race-based policy ideas to me and their mail outreach effort. Yeah. So, again, the thing is that for politicians, there's certain strategic things that they want to do in the tax code, right? So, for instance, Republicans kind of want to get some people that don't need to be off of SNAP and other kinds of assistance, which is kind of a bum deal. Like the people that they're taking off are people that are usually in pretty dire straits, you know? Not that there's not people out there that are just living off of welfare and living really good lives and never working. That happens too. But man, it's kind of a bum deal. But and it doesn't save that much. But then they want to make cuts so that businesses are incentivized and are better able to grow and things like that. But it doesn't help the budget, right? So the whole thing is, okay, we get this one bill through, we kind of get things in line with where we want them to go, and then we can start working on the other stuff, right? Well, there's a couple of problems here. Number one is that there's always something out there that takes precedence. There's always something that the politicians think is more important. And so you never get to that point where you really get to tackle that deficit, right? It'll be like, okay, now we're ready to tackle the deficit. Here's some of our plans, but we're not going to tell you. Actually, we're only going to be like general. We're not going to really tell you like the details of the plans because it would hurt us in the election. And there's an election coming up. But we promise to deal with it after the election, and then after the election is like, actually, this is more important than we did, right? It's always that cycle. So that's the first thing that happens. The second thing is that it's all just kind of piddling on the edges, because the truth of the matter is that the majority of our budget issues come from the entitlements, so Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, and military spending. And these are all like third rails in American politics. You're not allowed to change any of these things. Any kind of proposed change to that will result that would save the U.S. money is basically going to result in like revolting, you know? So Dodge, they did some good things. They are kind of working with they kind of forced Congress, was it yesterday or the day before, where Elon really pushed hard and they kind of responded and they started pushing towards, here's some of the recommendations that they made. Let's deal with this. Okay. They could potentially save billions of dollars, but it's still just a drop in the bucket compared to the entitlements. Okay, so I am trying to debug here. Attach to process. Indicator. Attach. Enabled. And this is where it comes. News is null. Okay. We can figure this out. Aha. So I have that on data loaded. And this one is on configure. Okay. So. Oh.
Connection lost.
I guess I needed to click continue 2 times, but I think we should be okay. Okay, so what I need to do is I need to change this bit right here to, instead of configure, to state dot data loaded. Oh, crap. I need to put the trash out. I'll be right back. It looks like that worked. Okay, so it looks to me like actually it would have it wouldn't have taken a trade on the news. It probably would have gone short here and gotten stopped out. So depending on some of the parameters that I had in here, like how long it has to wait before it can take a trade on the news and stuff like that. So it needs to get to like 47 before it will go short. It's kind of at risk of going short. Probably would have gone long here, though. Probably would have gone long and been up like 1 tick. So I'm thinking back on this thing, like I'm looking forward to the Democrats' plan to mansplain more gender and race-based policy ideas. So when I say, it's the policy. So then I think that if I was arguing with a Democrat right now, I think that they would say, well, what policies are we enacting that you think are really bad for men, right? Or that men really don't like? Well, I think of a lot of it is just, you offer more scholarships to women. You're you're offering all of these incentives that are basically making it so that like women overall are doing better. You're creating work environments that are less attractive to men. A lot of men are just kind of, what do we call it? Crashing out, right? Like they get into high school and they feel like so hated by the system before they're even out of high school that they're not interested in going to university and doing all this stuff and then just being a part of the machine and everything, right? But I don't think that I'm laying out, like enough specific policy, like I think I would need to be like, here's this bill and here's this bill, or especially if I could say, here's something that Joe Biden did, right? But then the more I think about it, the more I'm kind of like, but you know what? I think the thing that's killing them the most is actually the divorce thing. So do you guys remember a couple months back when their Democrats were like, that the message gets sent out and all of a sudden everybody on Reddit starts talking about the same thing, right? And the thing was that Democrats want to, or that Republicans want to do away with no-fault divorce. You remember that? But you know what? I think that's one of the biggest ones. I think that's one of the biggest things that's really, really hurting men. Is that you basically you have a system where if you have children and get divorced, you are absolutely screwed as a man. And under the current setup, you're very, very likely to get divorced. And I'm really not, and the issue with arguing that one is I don't necessarily agree with getting rid of no-fault divorce, I don't know how you fix that system. This is another one of those things where maybe what we need to do is we need to build an agent-based network, right? To game this out and say, okay, what kind of policy would be better? Let's see here. Jake Tapper has been doing his struggle session rounds, pitching his book recently. He mentioned that he went on some left-wing podcast. He went on to mention his son playing football and wanting to be a police officer, and the hosts proceeded to shellac his son over it. Just went on the attack over it, and his son is 15. That's where their problem lies. Well, but if it's just that, Uzi, then that would mean that they can just spend $30 million, get a couple of recommendations, and then just not like be anti-men, and people will start voting Democrat again. Now, I think that the problem is deeper than that. And part of it is I don't even think that it's that the biggest problems are necessarily that they set things up in a certain way because they hate men. I think that some of the biggest problems just kind of happened, they weren't targeting men or whatever. It was just the way that society developed. And it just happens to be negative for men, right? Like globalization has been bad for men. It's unquestionably bad for men. Anybody that, because one of the advantage that men have is physical labor, essentially. And if you've pushed all work that has anything to do with manual labor out of the country, and any of the really good paying manual labor stuff, you sent it to China, it's going to hurt men more. That wasn't necessarily their intention to hurt men more with that, right? But I really think that it is a policy thing. I think that you're going to make all of these changes, and you're going to change the way that you approach men, and they're not going to shellac people over wanting to be a police officer or whatever. They're going to create a culture that is inclusive and understands men and all of these sorts of things. And I think that men still won't vote for them. I think that we have gotten to a certain point within both culture and like people's understanding of what's going on in politics, where it used to be that you as a politician, you could do whatever you wanted as long as you said the right things to your constituents, right? So you could literally be telling your constituents one thing and then behind their backs doing the exact opposite with everything that you voted on, and you would get away with it. Because people didn't really understand what was going on in politics. They weren't paying enough attention. And because a lot of people don't understand how policies impact them, which policies are good for them and which policies are bad for them and things like that. They didn't think about that. But what has happened in the past 10 years is all of a sudden people have realized, oh, this policy is good for me and this policy is bad for me. Or it might not even be like good or bad for me, because look, you could have a policy that like I benefit from but is bad for society overall, right? But what people seem to care about is, oh, this policy is going to give me money, right? So like, and probably the best reflection of this is all of the, I would say Gen Z and millennials voting Democrat because they want their college debt forgiven. And I know many people that they were straight up, the main reason that they were voting Democrat was because they wanted their college debt forgiven. That's a thing, right? So I don't think that you can just, say, oh, we're going to change and we're not going to be negative to men anymore, but then continue the same policies that the Democrats have been doing and think that you're still going to get elected. But it's a more amorphous problem than that, because I don't think that we completely understand how the policies that we've been implemented are leading to the effects that we have today, right? This is the place where it's a emerging front in the science, because it deals with complexity, right? How does complexity in gender dynamics lead to a situation today where it's kind of not a very good deal for a man to get married and have kids? Unless you really know absolutely for sure that your wife would never divorce you. If we had a Democrat majority Congress right now, for example, they would be doing all the things. They'd have the power to the nth degree. Republicans don't do that stuff. Oh, I don't know about that, man. I mean, like, Republicans used to not do that stuff, but it seems to me that in the Trump era, they've been saying what's good for the goose is good for the gander, and they've been doing whatever it takes. There is some huge buys. Yeah, I was just about to say something before you commented, Octavius. I wasn't necessarily going to say huge buys, but there appears to be some pretty massive icebergs going back and forth between 14 and 14.5. We're still kind of stuck there. It sure feels like, the market could bust out to a new high. What is the Well, okay. So maybe Congress is a different thing, because if Democrats were in charge, I think that Congress would basically be doing nothing, just like Congress basically does now. Actually, I think that Republicans are doing way more than probably any Democrat Congress would be doing. Because the Republicans are at least trying to get a budget passed, right? Oh, they would totally try to impeach Trump, sure. I mean, they're trying to impeach Trump even though they don't have the majority, right? But in my book, that is Congress doing nothing. I really, you know, it's good television and everything, but I don't really think that anything meaningful happens from any of that. The question would be, what bill would they be pushing that would make a measurable difference in the lives of people and the direction of the United States? What would they be doing? Because are Republicans doing something that makes a significant difference in the I mean, you got this budget deal. I don't know. It kind of seems to me like messing around the edges. Hey, but Donald Trump going and doing tariffs, that's significant. And he's doing that because there's no way that they would get that through Congress. There's enough Republicans that don't like tariffs that there's no way that a tariff bill would get through Congress. The right basically stumbled into a cultural political advantage, the Democrats' science and stuff, and managed to lose it. And now with all that momentum, the right is going to let it go to waste? Well, yeah, probably. Good Type Studios says hi. Hey, welcome. I don't recognize your name, so welcome to the stream. Yeah, I think especially since, again, like, the advantage that Republicans have in Congress is super tiny. And you really need a huge advantage in Congress to really push through the types of things that either party wants. So yeah, they're probably not going to do much of anything. Dropped you an email. When did you do that? I probably ignored it. To be honest with you, the Good Type, I get like an email probably every other day from people wanting, like, consultants wanting to do stuff, right? And I just can't justify paying people anything right now. One, because the amounts that most consultants want for this kind of work is just more than what the stream makes. And second, because I don't have much time to make content right now. This will hopefully change. And after July, I will probably, stop being lazy and make more videos. But right now, I don't really have weekends to make videos and stuff. And now I have, that was like 2 minutes ago. Yeah, you're a video editing agency. Yeah. And I have a video editor guy that I pay that he does okay work for a good price. I don't know if I kind of feel like that the editing, I liked having stuff going on in the screen and everything. I liked it. I had a comment the other day, somebody saying that they didn't like it, but I kind of feel like it's a wash. Thumbnails, I feel like, is probably the place where we're suffering right now. And the thumbnails that we made during that time just didn't seem to get it done. Yeah. But the offer is still out there. I have a indicator, well, a Ninja Trader suite, because it's more than just indicators. It's like some add-ons and stuff. But I have a package for Ninja Trader 8 that I sell. It's $200 for a lifetime license. It's what this algorithm over here is running off of. That's these indicators over here. And if anybody that wants to sell it thinks that they can do a better job of selling it, I will literally offer you 50% commissions. Literally will offer you 50% commissions. So if you want to do that, then send me an email. Okay. In my honest opinion, Democrats don't need to waste a penny trying to court men. Just sit back and wait. People are steadily getting tired of the right courting them for power and doing nothing. We're gonna break out here. They just stepped over a pretty big offer iceberg. That would be like, I think because it's a 7-year auction, that might be why we're seeing some of these huge icebergs. So I don't know if we can continue through here or not. Well, to be honest, I'm probably going to still ignore your emails. I'll read it, but I don't promise I'll send you anything back. And just, it seems to me like there's like a horde of people out there, often from other parts of the world, not from the US, trying to offer any kind of services to YouTubers, and it's just nothing that they offer moves the needle, and I'm not in a spot to do any of that anyways. I suppose I could show you guys all of them, although there's a lot of other stuff going on here. See, so here's somebody. This isn't the good type. Here's this guy. Kept thinking about you. There's too much untapped revenue in your list to stay quiet. You've already got a powerful offer, a strong brand, and a loyal audience, but your back end is not doing your justice. So here's what I'm offering you. Blah, 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 blah. We did all of this for a trading brand stuck under 5K a month. And then they're showing like, oh yeah, we did this for this guy, right? So there's one. Here's one that's kind of the crappy one. I came across your YouTube channel and got your email. I'm reaching out on behalf of our company to discuss a potential collaboration. Okay, what company? You have a Gmail address. They didn't say, so I just ignored it. His email is regarding a potential sponsorship. Just kidding, but now that we have your attention, we'd love to show you what we can do by offering to edit a 1-minute sample completely free of charge. Cool. My team and I have taken a look at your content, and we are very confident we can get you to $15,000 per month minimum with your current following every single month. Oh, wow. So if I could make $1 per subscriber every month, that'd be amazing. That'd be amazing. And the best part is, if we don't deliver, you don't pay. We work on a 100% money back basis, so if you don't get results, you get all of your money back. No questions asked. Cool. Okay, that was May 22nd. Okay, I'm just reading to you guys these. So I've already read out to you 4. That was just in the past week. Can you believe that? I'm not a huge YouTube channel either. It's just crazy. This is crazy. But I have an affiliate payout system set up if you want to go and try and sell the indicators. I offer you 50% on every sale, which is $100 a sale. That's a pretty good deal. All right. Anyways. We're talking, I'm tired of the right courting them for power and doing nothing. Yeah, okay. So the whole thing though is like politicians always want your vote. Of course. There's plenty of things that the right would like to do, but they just really can't. Right? Can you sell it to yourself? Yes. But there's a payout limit. You have to have at least 3. So if you bought it yourself and then you got the commission on yourself and then you get 2 friends to buy it and then you would get $300 and you would essentially you'd get the indicator suite for free. Yeah. But you have to have minimum 3 to get the payout. Kind of came back down a little bit and you're getting the icebergs again. So I'm getting really strong signs of like, you know, what you get on an auction day. Have Uzi buy 2 for you. See, if you do that, it's a 50% commission. You'd make $300 and I'd make $300 and you'd have my Ninja Trader suite. It's a great deal. So you know what? I'm looking at this over here and I'm realizing that maybe my chart's not updating. Yeah, it's not. Is that because my data, I lost data? That's why. When I was debugging, it lost the connection and I never reconnected it. Hearing something about Japan initiating a call with Trump and everything. So here's a different question, Uzi. Okay, what is the one thing you would want them to do? Like, what is the one thing that you think they should be pushing through Congress right now? Could be doing it right now, voting on it. Maybe it wouldn't pass, but like, what's the one thing that you think they should be pushing? Okay, that looks a little bit better. Man, oil is coming down hard. From r/day trading. Is it possible to make 1 to 2% a day with my account? I am down 800,000, but this is what's left. And he has a 200,000 account. Sure. Just have like a really well-balanced portfolio of 5 to 10 stocks. And you would probably make 1 to 2% per day on it. Yeah. Turn the algo back on. Wow, what the heck? Okay, that looks better. Does look like it reached the threshold of a short, but you're all in at 14, huh? I don't know, man. Like 40K at 2 prices there, that's enough to make me worry about. I don't know, am I talking crazy here? Because the whole time I've been saying, I think there's should be some good opportunity here for this. But I'm seeing some things in the order flow that kind of makes me feel that the opportunity is not there. That it's just going to stay stuck here.
Order submitted.
Okay, well, that's a long right there. So coming through here and reading Reddit, like, because there's been so many people on Reddit that have been short the market, like they've been really, really stubborn about it too. Like they just hate this market and they've been short, and now they get completely blown out because Trump's tariffs got declared illegal, essentially. It just seems too ironic, right? So something that happens that you should be happy about, but you lost massive amounts of money that you didn't have to you didn't have to lose. Taco spent the whole campaign telling us how tariffs would make us rich and help us pay down debt, and then they won't, and then they will, and pick a lane. Well, I think that you have to understand that the effects of things like this are complex. So you will raise revenue from it. It will also hurt the economy. The price of some goods will probably go up. The price of some goods will probably go down. And like the specifics of all of that is actually extremely difficult to predict. We can model it. You can kind of see some of the sorts of things that can happen. I don't know. Now the other thing, the whole taco thing, I find that hilarious. Just like, oh, Donald Trump wants to implement tariffs so that he can negotiate better trade deals. And then people are surprised when he delays and or changes things with the tariffs in order to facilitate his negotiations. Well, okay. But I think that the reason that people come down on this is because people don't understand complexity. Our human mind is not capable of calculating complexity. It's just, we just can't do it. And so we do everything that we can to avoid complexity. So people get it in their head that it's like, okay, there's a tariff and then there should be like one strict effect that will come out of it. Either you're going to make money from it or you're not. Like, which one is it? Because they don't understand that the economy is a dynamic system and you're going to see all these ripple effects and then those kind of fold back in and have, you know, and it's going to change constantly. Right now, the last CPI report was kind of showing deflation. Like prices at retail stores have been going down. Okay. I wouldn't necessarily, if we continue to have tariffs, I wouldn't expect that to hold every month. Probably there are going to be some months where you see the costs of certain goods go up. And then there's going to be other months where you see the cost of things go down for consumers because of demand destruction. Oh, look, they did get a little bit higher here now. It's a good breakout. I don't know about it, the flow still seems, well, it's a good steady flow up, but this most recent leg is still, you know, it's only like 4,000. So and the funny thing is, now we get to see another level of complexity get added to it. Because before it was, oh, there's tariffs, and he will change the tariffs based on the situation, how the negotiations are going, how well the economy is going, all of these sorts of things, right? Well, now we have to add in the added complexity of a court case going on and people trading off of the result of that court case and the second order effects of Trump implementing the tariffs other ways and all of the complexity hoops that they have to jump through in order to implement the tariffs those ways. And then those get challenged. And then, right? It's going to be a mess. And we're just sitting here waiting for this one kind of, you know, certain situations where you're watching this complex system and every once in a while you would get a clear situation where it's clear that it's going to go one way a little bit. We just take that one little spot. Should I recenter here now? That was a pretty big order there at 17, but it looks like it's pulling. I wonder, well, so we should come back. I'm obviously, I really think that today should have been a day where I could have taken a trade. I suppose that the trade that I should have taken would have been just long at the beginning, right? It looks, I would have expected the algorithm to do really, really well today. It is in a good trade right now. But if it was going for the whole session, I think it would kind of be a wash. I want to see where this goes, like the auction. Now that we're up like this, I really wonder what the auction's going to be like. Because I think you could see some strong demand in the auction. And how much might they jump off of that? Okay, well, the high from the past week or so is still 19.5. Don't see a big bid there or anything, but it is there. Oh, no, Octavius is going to take the profit. Let's see here. Gundriver says, I'm not averse to tariffs as long as the premise is coupled with reducing the via budget cuts, which presently not in the cards. Well, it's definitely kind of really hurts the Republican messaging, I guess you could say. That like, oh, we're going to make all of this money from tariffs. And then they pass a set of bills that basically increases the deficit. But the thing is that now you're getting into another set of subjects that is incredibly complicated. When I need to differentiate between when I'm talking about complexity, which is when the small interactions can lead to emergent high-level behavior, from something where there's just a lot going on and a lot to consider, right? But essentially, if you cut taxes, that can benefit the economy in certain ways. And it's usually the case. So this happened during Trump's first term. They passed all of Trump's tax cuts and all of that sort of stuff at the beginning of his term. And then the Democrats were like, well, this is so terrible. It's going to increase the deficit and we're going to pull in less revenue. And I remember watching Reddit about this every week. Story like this would come out and all of the people were like, oh, like that we're gonna get less revenue. No, probably not, because the economy grows every year. The economy grew really strong under Trump that first year, and so you might be pulling a smaller percentage of the economy, but you end up pulling in more money overall. And that's what happened under the Trump administration. Now, the problem is you can't necessarily calculate or attribute everything, all of the growth in the economy to Donald Trump's tax cuts, right? The economy was going to grow anyways. So that's the first thing, is when people tell you like that government revenue is going to go down, that almost never happens. They almost always pull in more money than the previous year. All right. But do they pull in as much money as they would have had the tax rates been higher? No way to really know, right? And there's the Congressional Budget Office, and they kind of have their certain way of scoring things, and that does not take into effect any kind of anticipated increase in GDP because of the tax cuts, right? And so that's always the direction in the argument that the Republicans make, is that these tax cuts are actually going to decrease the deficit because we're going to make more money because the economy will be bigger. And the problem is we can't really measure that, and the CBO office doesn't score it like that. And so you always kind of end up losing that argument in the public discourse, essentially. Okay, so there's my ding. We did get to 19.5. I say there sure is a lot of icebergs and big volume coming through this. So, well, they just got smacked down there too. I don't know. My robot hasn't gotten 10 ticks yet. That kind of stuff right there is the sort of thing that kind of makes me skittish about a trade. But we're in a kind of a situation where, like, you can totally get a trend day, right? It can totally keep going. And this is one where it's really like, what's causing the buying and selling and everything in this situation, I think, is a little bit too complicated for me to say for sure. But, and I didn't take a trade, obviously, but let's just say that I did take a trade, or that, you know, I'm trying to decide what to do with this robots trade. I think that if I had the long from 15, I think that despite what just happened there, that I would hang on to it. I'd hang on to it, and, you know, if they come back to my entry, then maybe I'd bail, because there is a possibility of it continuing to trend. They're right at a weekly high. They broke a weekly high. So if we get another push up, then I think you could end up getting a really extended move. And we have an auction today, and I'm expecting that auction to be positive. So I would want to hold it at least until the auction and hope that I get a pop off of the auction. Of course, there's a risk that the auction goes really bad and then we'd be back at the lows. But given the amount of big icebergs that we've had here and the positive upward action, I think that it's likely that we see a good auction. So I think that's the prediction that I can make here, is that that 110.20 will not be the high of the day, and that we can probably hold the trade until the auction. But that's why trading the news is fool's. Well, I don't know about that one. I think that today is kind of a unique situation, right? Today is a unique situation where the news that we got is kind of two-sided, and there's a bunch of other things going on.
Order canceled.
Too. So, you know, it's actually getting out there. Okay. Well, whatever. You know, really the best trades are going to be those ones where, like, there's some sort of piece of news came out or whatever, and the market does not understand it at all, and you take the opposite side of it. That's where some of my best trades have come from, right? I don't think that's this one. This one is just it's too much of a crapshoot. This particular situation. Well, I take that back. Like, if I was okay, so let's say that it didn't happen overnight. It happened while we were here. The news hit that the tariffs were ruled illegal, right? I 100% would fade that. 100% would have faded that. Because Trump's going to implement the tariffs another way. So here's a situation where if you understand the system and what's going on and the section of the tariff rules that he was using to justify the action and the other possible ways that he can do it, right, then you would know when that news hit that they're likely to give it back, and they did. I wouldn't like to trade overnight, so that's where it's kind of like, but like if it didn't happen overnight, 100% would have taken that and you would have made money. This is a perfect example of where they're trading the news, and being an informed trader is really like the best way to trade for a retail trader, I think. Okay. But, there was a 12K iceberg at 18, huh? Okay, well. Anyways, it's time for me to get going. I'm really super interested in where this ends up going, but I got to go. It's every day. I tell you, man, it's every day. It's heartbreaking when I have to stop trading. It really is. I'm enjoying the job, but I hate that we have to end the stream at 8 o'clock. Okay, guys. I will talk to you tomorrow. Stay excellent, team.